The city was silent, holding its breath. Rain cut across Philadelphia's skyline, cold and sharp. Inside the convention hall, leaders laughed, unaware. Far across the river, a rifle steadied. Wind, pressure, distance all calculated. A finger tightened. 4 pounds of force. The shot cracked, muffled. Surgical. Secretary David Rourke collapsed before his guards even blinked. Panic erupted. Sirens wailed. But the rooftop was empty. No shell. No prints. No face. Only the mark of a ghost. A shot almost no one alive could make. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. The city slept uneasy beneath a cold January sky. Philadelphia's skyline glistened with frozen rain, each street lamp crowned in ice. From 600 meters away, on the roof of a vacant hotel, a single figure lay prone against the gravel. Her rifle's suppressor pointed toward Independence Plaza, where security men in coats escorted the nation's Secretary of Defense through a crowd of handshakes. The optics cut through haze, turning distance into intimacy. Crosshairs lingered on a man who believed himself untouchable. Breath held, trigger pulled. A muted crack, no louder than a door closing. The secretary collapsed in mid-greeting, lifeless before anyone noticed. By the time shouts broke, the shooter was gone, leaving nothing but a spent trajectory too perfect for accident. Snow whipped the empty rooftop, no shell casings, no trace of oil or prints, just the whisper of precision that felt more like a signature than a weapons report. Philadelphia froze under sirens, but far from the chaos, a different silence reigned. Fort Wainwright, Alaska, a warehouse lit by humming fluorescents. Riley Keaton sat at a steel bench, sleeves rolled to the elbow, her hands working through an old M24 sniper rifle that should have been gathering dust. To anyone watching, she was just another armory tech. She pulled the bolt assembly free, wiped carbon, oiled the grooves, movements precise, too precise, like choreography carved into muscle long ago. The rifle rested in her hands like it had been waiting for her all this time. A shadow filled the doorway. Colonel Mason Drake stepped in, his boots echoing against concrete. His eyes lingered on Riley's hands, noting every fluent detail that no supply specialist should know. "You stripped that like you were born to it," he said, voice roughened by years of sand and smoke. Riley didn't look up. "Just routine maintenance, sir, before it's shipped out for decommission." Drake stepped closer, fingers brushing the rifle's stock. He paused at a faint engraving burned into the wood, a circle of crosshairs with an arc above it, subtle enough to pass as wear. His expression hardened. "Funny thing," he murmured. "That mark belonged to a unit that never officially existed." His gaze met hers. "Gray line program. And your old call sign was Shade." Riley froze, mask slipping for half a heartbeat. Years of careful anonymity cracked open. She reassembled it just as fast. "You've mistaken me, Colonel." Drake shook his head slowly, producing a slim encrypted drive from his jacket. He set it on the workbench, next to the rifle she had cleaned too well. "There's a chain of assassinations unfolding. High-value targets, all made to look like freak accidents. Every shot screams gray line." Riley kept her face neutral, but inside her pulse thudded. Drake tapped the drive. The latest victim was General Douglas Kincaid's rival, and every thread leads back to Aegis Vector Systems, the defense hub running something called Project Minerva. "I want you at a meeting, 2100 officers' quarters, room 214. We don't have time for lies." He left her with the rifle, the drive, and silence. Riley exhaled slowly, staring at the arc sigil on the wood, a mark she had once carried like a brand. Shade, the ghost who never missed. She had buried that name 3 years ago. Now it had been spoken aloud again. That night, her apartment felt too still, A narrow space chosen for invisibility. Walls bare except for secondhand furniture. She checked each lock twice before pulling the closet door aside. Behind hanging coats, her fingers found a hidden keypad. 12 digits tapped. A panel slid open with a whisper. Inside was the room she pretended didn't exist. A false life tucked behind drywall. The shelves were lined with weapons sealed in foam. A stack of passports with names she no longer answered to. Bundles of dollars and euros wrapped in rubber bands. And at the center, a laptop stored in a waterproof case. She placed the drive into its port and watched files unfold ledgers. Coded orders, surveillance stills. Every page carried the same shadow. Project Minerva. Her hands paused on one image, grainy, shot from distance, a figure half hidden in blur, walking away from a burned-out convoy. Broad shoulders, posture impossible to mistake. Ethan Ward, her former spotter, dead, or so she thought, on that mountain in Hindu Kush. His name carved into stone, folded into a flag she'd saluted. Yet here he was, alive in pixels, tangled in Minerva's orbit. The room seemed smaller now, pressing in. Either Drake was baiting her with a forgery, or her past had never stayed buried. Riley closed the laptop, her jaw set. At 21:00, she would face Drake, whether trap or truth. Shade had no choice but to walk back into the game. She reassembled the M24 with mechanical care, oil still fresh on her hands, the same rifle she had sworn never to touch again. Outside, Alaska's wind howled like an omen, and somewhere between Philadelphia and Fort Wainwright, two shadows, the killer in the snow and the ghost in the armory, were already on the same path. The door to room 214 shut with a muted click. Curtains drawn, lights dimmed. The space felt more like an interrogation cell than officer housing. Colonel Mason Drake sat across from Riley, a folder spread between them, his voice steady but sharp. Project Minerva, he began. Aegis Vector's brainchild, modeled after Greyline but stripped of restraint. Neural conditioning layered on top of skill. They're building shooters who follow orders without hesitation. Riley kept her posture still, though each word sharp in the air. Drake flipped a page, revealing schematics, training footage, and budget flows camouflaged in civilian contracts. They're accelerating. Headquarters in Portland, and the gala at the Oregon Convention Center has been pushed forward. Tomorrow night, before she could answer, the lock behind her shifted. A presence slid through without sound. Riley spun halfway from her chair, hand on her sidearm, but froze at the voice. Easy. Shade. Ethan Ward stepped into the light, his face older, scar cutting across his cheek, eyes the same. The partner she had mourned was standing alive in uniform black. Her weapon stayed half raised. "You're supposed to be dead." "Supposed to be," Ethan replied. He nodded at Drake. "We don't have long. Minerva's cleanup crew is already inbound. 2-man advance, 4-man follow. They'll sanitize this meeting like it never happened." The words cut through hesitation. Drake shut the folder with finality. "Then we move." They exited into the freezing corridor, boots thudding in cadence. Outside, an SUV idled, headlights cut, exhaust curling into fog. At the wheel sat Gareth Cole, former commander turned fugitive name on multiple blacklists. He gave Riley a quick nod as she slid into the seat. "Didn't think I'd see the Shade again," he muttered, shifting gears. The vehicle lunged forward, tires spraying slush as they merged onto the snowbound road. In the rear, Ethan checked his carbine, eyes never leaving the mirrors. Riley's pulse still fought disbelief. Cole kept the wheel steady, voice low. Nora Patel's waiting at the safe house. She's pieced together more than anyone. But the window's closing. Riley watched the forest blur past, branches heavy with frost. Each mile dragged her deeper into the world she had tried to escape. The safe house crouched on the edge of frozen timberland, a squat cabin wired with antennae. Inside, the warmth smelled of coffee and circuit boards. Nora Patel greeted them with a headset still looped around her neck. "You're late," she said, shoving a tablet into Riley's hands. On screen, a string of obituaries scrolled. Officials, scientists, contractors, every death filed as accident plane malfunction, gas leak, cardiac arrest, all linked. Kincaid's fingerprints. Nora explained. He's pruning obstacles one by one. What he wants is control of the nuclear chain. If he replaces enough key holders, the system tips. Minerva isn't theory. It's the knife he's using. Riley scrolled further. Faces she knew from past briefings, some she had met, all gone. A slaughter by disguise, she murmured. Drake leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We stop it in Portland, but we have to move before the gala locks down. Silence fell, broken by Ethan's flat voice. Unless we can even trust you, Colonel. His stare locked on Drake. Riley glanced up, meaning Ethan dropped a second file onto the table. Inside, intercepted chatter suggesting classified leaks routed through Drake's channels. Minerva's been a step ahead for months. Someone's been feeding them positions. Too clean to be coincidence. Drake's jaw tightened. If I were their leak, you'd all be corpses already. Think. He pulled a folded photo from his pocket, sliding it across. A woman's face, younger, tied to Gareth Cole by blood. Lauren Cole, Drake said, Gareth's daughter. She's alive. Kincaid's people are holding her at Hillsborough as leverage. That's why Gareth's been forced silent. Gareth's grip on the table turned white-knuckled. He said nothing, but his eyes confirmed the truth. The revelation cut both ways, doubt toward Drake, proof he still carried truths only insiders could know. Riley felt tension coil tighter. No clean side to lean on. Before they could press further, a klaxon wailed across the safe house interior. Sensors screamed red. On the perimeter feed, headlights sliced through falling snow. A black SUV convoy rolled toward them, license plates traced to federal pools. They're here, Nora snapped, yanking cables free, hard drives dumped into bags, papers torched in the stove. Gareth grabbed rifles, tossing them to Ethan and Riley. Out the back, Drake ordered. No stand and fight. We can't win here. Snow swallowed their boots as they plunged into trees. Engines revved closer, beams knifing through trunks. Shots cracked, silencers spitting white plumes. Riley returned fire in bursts, her rounds chewing bark for cover. The group dove into a second vehicle hidden under camo netting. Gareth floored it, headlights off, the SUV tearing across frozen ground. Pursuers gave chase, shadows flickering between pine trunks. Westbound routes burned. Nora called from the rear, tablet glowing. We swing south. Portland's the only chance now. Riley braced against the window, watching federal plates vanish into distance. Her chest still heaved from the sprint, but her mind locked on the arc ahead. Tomorrow meant Portland, a gala thick with targets and lies. And somewhere in the folds, Project Minerva waiting like a blade. The SUV surged southward, carrying old ghosts into new fire. Portland glowed with glass and steel. The Oregon Convention Center stretched across the skyline, banners hanging for the defense gala. Riley Keaton walked in as Riley Hart. Axiom Defense Systems' new badge clipped, black dress cut for discretion. Crowds murmured under chandeliers. Waiters moved with silver trays, while executives polished their lies. Riley slipped through, every step measured, every smile rehearsed. Up above, Gareth Cole steadied a scope from an unfinished tower. His Overwatch covered doors, balconies, rooftops. His voice murmured through Riley's earpiece. You're clean. Keep moving. Nora Patel sat miles away in a dim trailer, monitors glowing across her face. Audio sweep active. I'll ghost your trail, she said, fingers dancing over a keyboard. She tracked phone signals, guard rotations, and flagged anything that pulsed wrong. Riley lifted a champagne glass, drifting toward the exhibition wing. Booths showcased guidance systems, drone prototypes, laser arrays, shells for darker contracts. A familiar presence brushed past her, Colonel Mason Drake. He looked older under the ballroom lights, tie loosened, glass in hand like any guest. But when he slid a tiny packet into her clutch, his whisper was sharp. Evidence. Cole's compromised. He's been playing both sides for Lauren's life. Riley kept moving, face neutral. Inside her bag, the packet burned like lead. She didn't open it. Not yet. Through her earpiece, Cole's voice cut in, calm but clipped. North Corridor, VIP reroute. Lowell's on the move. Deputy Secretary Brian Lowell, tonight's prize target, was supposed to take the East Wing stage, but at the last second, security diverted him into the North Corridor. Nora's voice spiked. That's a kill box. 4 exits, 3 already sealed. Classic funnel. Riley's pulse kicked. She abandoned her glass, heels striking marble. The corridor stretched ahead, lights dim, shadows deep. Lowell walked with 2 aides, oblivious. Behind them, men in suits closed distance too clean to be coincidence. Contact, Riley whispered. She broke into a sprint. A guard reached for his jacket, her elbow drove into his ribs. Gun half raised, twisted from his grip, used as leverage. 2 shots snapped downrange. Another man dropped. Lowell, move, she barked. She shoved him toward a stairwell door, her Glock spitting controlled fire. Cole's voice broke in. On your roofline. Get him up. Riley kicked the door open, dragging Lowell up metal stairs slick with condensation. She fired behind her, muzzle flash, strobing shadows. Above, the roof was open sky and biting wind. A rotor beat thunder overhead. A helicopter swung low, media logos painted on its hull. Too polished, too timed to be news. Cole's Overwatch tone sharpened. Ride's ours. Move. They hustled across tar and gravel, ducking under floodlights. Riley hauled Lowell inside, rotors kicking spray into her face. Cole appeared from the shadows, weapons slung, calm despite the chaos. Below, the OCC locked down. Kincaid's men sealed doors, radios buzzing. The general himself walked into the atrium, coat drawn tight, eyes sweeping upward. His expression was stone. He didn't chase. He simply watched as the helicopter rose into mist. In Riley's ear, static swallowed Drake's frequency. He was gone. His voice, his signal, erased. The helicopter banked west. Nora's voice filled the line again. Gala's burned. Next vector is Hillsborough. Aegis vectors holding Lauren Cole. We strike now or she's gone. Cole's jaw tightened, his daughter's name carved into the air like shrapnel. Riley gave a single nod, then Hillsborough. They landed short of the facility, slipping through forest under steady rain. Floodlights glared from perimeter towers. Guard patrols tracked regular arcs, boots crunching gravel. Riley led the breach, silencer threaded, breath shallow. One guard folded under her chokehold, lowered without sound. Ethan Ward covered flanks, knife flashing, bodies disappearing into shadows. Nora whispered updates into their ears. Thermal cams offline for 30 seconds. Move now. They slipped inside through a service door, cold hallways echoing with the hum of servers. Red lights pulsed overhead, cameras sweeping. Riley counted paces, each turn rehearsed in Nora's feed. They reached the detention wing, behind reinforced glass. Lauren Cole sat shackled to a chair, eyes hollow but alert. Gareth's breath hitched over comms. I see her. A guard rounded the corner. Riley's silencer barked once. He collapsed, keycard clattering. Ethan scooped it, unlocked the cell. Lauren stumbled into her father's arms. No words, only the weight of survival. Alarms erupted, metallic wails ripping through corridors. Doors slammed shut behind them. Red strobes drowning vision. Extraction route Delta. Nora snapped. Loading bay now. They pushed through smoke, Footsteps pounding metal grates. Sirens echoed, boots converging. Riley fired controlled bursts, clearing arcs for Cole and Lauren. Ethan tossed a flashbang, corridor washed in white. They burst into the loading bay, rain pelting concrete. A semi-truck sat idle, tarps flapping. Beyond the chain-link fence, headlights swarmed. But in the chaos, General Kincaid stood outside, trench coat billowing, face calm. He didn't order pursuit, didn't raise a hand. He simply watched, rain streaking down his face like war paint. The team slammed through the fence, sprinted to an exfil vehicle Nora had primed. Tires screeched, mud spraying. The last thing Riley saw as they vanished into night was Kincaid's eyes following, unblinking. And just before the curtain of rain swallowed her view, she glimpsed another shadow. Mason Drake, half lit by floodlights, standing at the edge of the lot. For a heartbeat, he shifted to block Kincaid's line of sight, buying them the half-second gap they needed. No one spoke. No one knew if Drake had just saved them or staged the whole play. They sped into the storm. Lauren safe but shaking, Kincaid unbroken. Drake vanished into doubt. And Riley, soaked to the bone, knew the real battle had only begun. Beaverton's industrial district lay dark under steady rain. Aegis Vector's server hub loomed ahead, squat concrete and glass with steel fences glistening under floodlights. Riley crouched with Ethan and Cole in the shadows of a rail spur, water dripping from her hood. Nora's voice crackled through comms. Thermal grid rotates every 90 seconds. Window opens in 3, 2, go. They sprinted low, cutting across asphalt. Ethan clipped the fence with practiced ease, wires curling under his cutters. They slid through, boots splashing silently on puddled ground. Inside, the building's chill was immediate. The server floor stretched like a frozen canyon, towers of machines humming, lights blinking in endless rows. Cold air pumped through vents, misting with condensation. Riley's breath fogged as she approached a console. Nora guided her keystrokes. Slot the drive. Pull package Minerva. Riley obeyed, slotting the chip. Lines of code spilled across the screen budgets. Orders. Covert footage of training accidents. Lists of future targets. Her chest tightened. This wasn't theory. It was genocide written in contracts. Ethan muttered, "It's all here." Proof. A crash of steel shattered the silence. Security breach team, armored and masked, poured into the aisle. Gunfire erupted, suppressed cracks tearing sparks from server racks. Riley dropped low, rolling between towers, squeezing off shots that stitched shadows red. Cole's voice barked across the floor. "Exit! South Bay! Move!" They fought through narrow rows, bullets ricocheting. Riley vaulted a toppled server cart, dragged Lauren by the wrist, kept her shielded. Ethan cleared their flank with brutal precision. The bay doors loomed, half open, rain slicing in. Outside, headlights speared through the storm. Black SUVs lined the lot, engines idling, and there, waiting in the downpour, General Kincaid. He didn't flinch as alarms screamed. He didn't draw a weapon. He stood bareheaded in the rain, his eyes locked on Riley as if the chaos around them didn't exist. The team slowed instinctively, their exit path a tableau framed by his stillness. For a heartbeat, no one fired. No pursuit came. Kincaid simply turned away, raising a hand once. The SUVs stayed idle, letting them vanish into the storm. It was not mercy. It was calculation. They fled into the night, vehicle fishtailing on wet asphalt until the safe zone swallowed them. Nora patched into a secure uplink, her fingers shaking. Transmission going out. Deputy Secretary Lowell online. Riley watched as the encrypted channel stabilized. Lowell's voice came through, clipped but decisive. "I have the packet. Confirm authenticity." Nora's eyes never left her screens. Confirmed. Every detail cross-checks with existing intelligence. Minerva's funding, its targets, direct orders from Kincaid. There was silence. Then the sound of a pen scratching across paper. Lowell's tone hardened. Under Title 50 authority, I'm activating Operation Lantern. Kincaid and his network are to be neutralized with immediate effect. The team exhaled, but only halfway. Orders signed on paper didn't end wars in shadows. Cole pulled Lauren closer, his relief breaking through years of discipline. Her head rested against his shoulder, breath ragged but alive. For him, that was victory enough tonight. Drake was gone. No comms, no trace. His disappearance weighed heavier than victory. Allie, traitor, or something between the answer had slipped away. Hours later, at Travis Air Force Base, the hangars echoed with the hollow rhythm of late-night operations. Riley walked alone down the corridor, her duffel brushing her leg. She carried no insignia, no flag, only the weight of the ARC sigil burned into her hand. She reached a quiet table in an empty briefing room, set the symbol down flat, a promise, not a confession. Shade was back in play. No headlines, no brass bands, only the sound of boots against concrete. The hunt was not over. It had just begun.